taken from the county jail by a set of curious chances, liberated then on bail, on me unrecognized senses, wafted by a favoring gale, as one sometimes is in trances, to a height that few can scale, save long and weary dances, surely never had a male, under such like circumstances, so adventurous a tale, which may rank with most romances, taken from the county jail, by a set of curious chances, surely never had a male, so adventurous a tale.
If you give me your attention, I will hold back all my tears as I speak of Byron Arnason and a friendship spanning 30 years. We shared a special love, a real passion, you might say, for timeless comic operas from Queen Victoria's day. Ever present at performances, this poobah of ready smile was ready, willing, able, enthusiastically to walk a mile, to meet the need as noted by his perceptive eyes, for a generous plan to meet that need was something he had devised. It happened all the time. His enthusiasm was infectious. He was a joy to be around. With Byron, delight in everyone and everything would abound. And a charitable action he would be quick to take if the cause was one he could support and not one that was fake. He loved his fellow creatures, which was evident every day. Have fun while working, always, was the Byron Arnason way. In Austin, he was loved by the Savoyards, one and all, especially when hearing his booming brava echoing through the hall. We'll miss those affirmations. He was a special friend of two Austinite grand dames, Libby Weed and Reba Gillman were these remarkable ladies' names. Libby served multiple terms as president, each one a sine qua non, for GNS Austin grew and prospered during each and every one. Charter member Reba supported GSA in manners large and small, and was forward-looking and progressive, having truly seen it all. They loved their Byron for his loyalty and friendship deep, and Byron returned that love through all those promises he would keep, just as you would expect. Byron was a friend with many folk with other interests too, like geophysics, the military, and exploration, to name a few. But while he spent his time and energy hunting deep for gold, whate'er he did, he always found delight in friends untold. Today we gather to honor our relative or our dear friend with an understanding that our love for him will never end. So together, let us share our condolences, deepest sorrow, and above all else thank BTA for all those years of friendship, smiles, and love. May his memory be a blessing.
Byron Arnason, geophysicist, inventor, and ardent Gilbert and Sullivan fan and supporter. Genuine sense of humility, unfailing approach to others as their equal. Byron literally read everything. He could discuss any subject in depth at the drop of a hat. He would always and sincerely start the conversation with, "Of course, I'm sure you know." And I would be sitting there like Forrest Gump, nodding very sagely while struggling to keep up. Here is one of my favorite Byron stories that, shockingly enough, has nothing to do with Gilbert and Sullivan. In 2009, we bought a brand new Mazda 5. I'm pathological about vehicle maintenance, the absolute best oil, filters, everything, right? At 40,000 miles, the engine blows a head gasket. And I am not pleased with that. I take it to the dealership, $2,800 in repairs. So I asked him, how long does it take to fix it? About 3 days. The 3-day fix turns into 5 weeks. And I called them on the 5th week, and their response was, "We can't get the factory oil pressure up at idle." They had their quote-unquote top mechanic on it. I arranged a meeting with the dealership manager and the service manager. Both of these men had previously told me we raced cars and built engines. I walked into the meeting with my wife and Byron and made the introductions. Told them that I was a QA manager, had been in manufacturing for about 4 decades. My wife was decades into being a calibration technician and a designer of electronic components. And Byron was a geophysicist, inventor, and worked his way through college as a commercial aircraft mechanic. I made the intro to prevent any tap dancing or buffaloing from the manager of the dealership or the service department. Byron had a list of questions for them. Have you looked at this and that and the other? Yes, they said. The last question was, and this is nearly a quote, have you checked the oil galleys to see if they are clear? I won't go into what that means. Both of their responses was deer in the headlights. They looked at the ceiling, the floor, their fingernails. No, they hadn't. That's what the body language said. Their response was, that was next. The irony here is that it took a geophysicist from Stanford University to solve the problem for them. And that was Byron.
This was an impossible task, to condense a 35-year friendship into a 5 or 10 minute video. I feel that I, along with others, was one of Byron's projects, or challenges, since I was thrust upon him by our boss, John Heut at Lacoste and Romberg. Mr. Heut assigned me to Byron as his helper, since I had some experience in CAD programs, and at first Byron wasn't sure what to do with me, but having never collaborated on instrument designs. It wasn't long before we settled into a rhythm. He would bring me scraps of paper with a handwritten note or drawings of his latest schematic, and these were to be added to or modified into the latest project. While I was making changes to the schematic and circuit board, I never felt any pressure to hurry. Byron would be leaning back in his chair, hands laced behind his head, as he continued to follow the signals through the various components, all in his head. Then, when he was happy with the newest section, he would scribble it onto a sheet of paper and hand it to me. You gotta see this. This is one of them. I'm not sure how good you can see it, doesn't matter, it's just the idea. After that, it ended up looking more like that, which is, you know, a little more easy to read. Once we had a working prototype, we would load up his van and drive to a nearby cow pasture with the owner's permission. We would lay out the long lines of the mini-res and eagerly record the improvements of the survey. The cows were unimpressed. Working on the mini-res project evolved into a lifetime partnership. He knew what he wanted, and I did what he told me. All of Byron's project involved constant revisions as components went obsolete or better ones came on the market. Engineers are never content with their creations. When John Fett learned of Byron's love of Gilbert and Sullivan, John also suggested inviting me to a Gilbert and Sullivan production of The Pirates of Penzance. That was the beginning of the golden age of all things Gilbert and Sullivan. The consistent caliber of the members and their musicales and plays brought a richness and depth to my life. Byron was a larger-than-life Savoyard, their greatest fan, member, board of director, gopher, cheerer, clapper, and bravoer. Many times during the show and after the last curtain call, we would hear Byron booming out, "Bravo!" or "Brava!" It wasn't long before the performers knew who was behind that voice. Byron changed my life. With Byron as their greatest fan, I enjoyed a reflection of his character simply by being his friend. Over the years, I went from being a very introverted, shy, actually painful person to following closely in Byron's wake to also working with the board of directors. There was no request, too big or small, which Byron wouldn't accomplish with great alacrity. He absolutely reveled in being part of the society, and I reveled in this new dimension to my life. I miss him desperately.
Of the Pinafore, and I am captain too. You're very, very good, and be it understood, I command a right good crew. They're very, very good, and be it understood, he commands a right good crew. Related to a peer, I could hand, reef and steer, or ship a salvage. I'm never known to quail at the fury of a gale, and I'm never, never sick at sea. What's never? No, never. What's never? Well, hardly ever. Ever sick at sea. Give 3 cheese and 1 chin both for hardy captain of the Pinafore. I give 3 cheese and 1 chin both for the captain of the Pinafore. Hooray! 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 I do my best to satisfy you all, and if you were quite content. You're exceedingly polite, and I think it only right to return the compliment. We're exceedingly polite, and he thinks it's only right to return the compliment. Bad language or abuse I never, never use, whatever the emergency. Though bother it I may occasionally say, I never use a big, big D. What's never? No, never. What's never? Well, hardly ever. Yes, there's a big, big D. Cheese and 1 cheer more for the well-bred captain of the Pinafore. They give 3 cheers and 1 cheer more for the captain of the Pinafore. Hooray! Hooray! Hooray!
Hi, I'm Miki Gillman. I met Byron through my mom, Reba. Byron and Reba developed a warm, respectful friendship through the Gilbert and Sullivan Society of Austin. Byron told me he had been intimidated by Reba when he joined the board. I was surprised given their size and age differences. At the time of our conversation, Reba was only 4'8", weighing 80 pounds and aged 92. Nevertheless, when Byron gave examples of what had intimidated him, I smiled, recognizing classic Reba. Direct and passionate, especially in asserting her strong principles and in the need to be fair to everyone. Of course, once Byron got to know Reba better, he understood her and they developed a warm, respectful friendship. I still remember Reba scurrying across the lobby to greet Byron when he arrived at a show after driving 18 hours straight to get there. Byron was well loved, appreciated, and respected by everyone in the G&S family for his affability, friendliness, boundless energy, and his vast knowledge on so many topics. He clearly loved the G&S operettas as much as we did. He told us that his sister had introduced him to G&S, and he was ever grateful for that gift. Byron helped GSSA tremendously over the years in many ways. He served on the board, he was a superb house manager at Grand Productions, and always happily did whatever was asked of him. His enthusiasm was contagious. He was a delight to be around. He was a best friend to many. I miss all that and more. Plus, he always started the applause and the standing ovations. And now that falls to me. May you rest in peace.
Although our dark career sometimes involves the crime of stealing, we'd rather think that we're not altogether void of feeling. Although we live by strife, we're always sorry to begin it. For what we ask is life, without a touch of poetry in it. Hail, poetry, thou hand-born maid, the gift that still not pirates trade. Hail, flowing fount of sentiment. Oh, hail,
Hello, my name is Dennis Mills. I am the president of a geophysical equipment rental company in Austin, Texas called Exploration Instruments. And I was privileged to call Byron my friend for the past 27 years. Byron and I had some shared history that predated that when we both worked for competing geophysical companies back in the 80s. But we really connected in 1998 when I took over John Fett's rental company. By that time, I already had 24 years in the business, but I credit Byron with a large part of my early success as he, along with John, became my counselors. I was so amazed at Byron's depth of knowledge when it came to our industry. He was somebody whom I describe as an instinctive geophysicist. He just got it, all of it. There was no part of our science that he did not have some knowledge. Of course, I was just beginning to appreciate his ability to retain what he had learned and our shared science was just a minute portion of his interests, although always, I think, his passion. Geology, geophysics, hydrology, electrical engineering, art, music, history. Byron was the walking, talking, thinking example of a Renaissance man. There seemed to be no subject which he'd not spent some time reading or contemplating, and he retained everything. On the other hand, he spent a lot of nights at Scott's Shady Court in Winnemucca, Nevada, with not a whole lot else to do. He was so generous with what he knew and so enthusiastic about sharing it, like probably everybody else who knew him. I can't count the number of conversations, the times we'd be in some wide-ranging, rambling talk, and something would come up and he'd say, I can hear him now. He'd say, "Well, Dennis, you do know how penicillin came to be, don't you?" Well, maybe. Or Gilbert and Sullivan. There was no condescension. He just wanted to share. He's been my go-to for so many years when I come across something that I don't understand. I was never bashful about confessing it to Byron in my ignorance because I knew he didn't think me lesser of it, just uneducated. I will miss him terribly, but I will always remember our years working together with the greatest of fondness.
Oscar.